So they had gone to a meal as the Passover was approaching. And when they went to meals, it wasn't just Jesus and a couple. There are a lot more people who were probably traveling and following Jesus around than are named in the stories. There were definitely a group of hangers-on, and a group that was close to Jesus, and a group that was outside of the hangers-on. They were all nearby all the time because they had accepted that Jesus was something different. In the Gospel of Mark, it says he taught as one with authority. And we could talk for a long time about what that even means. But he was something different, something special. He had something that other teachers didn't have. And those who were the closest to him, particularly Peter, John, and James, we hear the most about them, and Mary. Those who were the closest to him had really internalized and accepted that this was their Messiah. This was their Lord, the Son of their God, the person who had come to show them a new way, a new life, to make them free, to reconcile them to God, to show them how to fix everything that was wrong with the world. He was beloved. He was everything to them. So they come to this dinner. Now, have any of you ever been to the desert or in the Middle East or Arizona? The American Southwest has desert. Have anybody ever been there? Where there's a lot of sand. How about the beach? You know how in those places, in my brother's apartment when he lived in Arizona, as you come in the front door, there's the foyer and there's a shower right here. And it's to step into and wash all the sand off before you go into someone's house. That's the custom. That's good manners. When you're someplace where there's a lot of sand, somewhere near the opening of the house, either outside or just inside, there's a place to wash yourself. It's just common courtesy. The way we take off our boots when we go into someone's house in the wintertime. So they went in, and they came into this house. They gathered together for this meal. They sat around the table on pillows, cushions, blankets, whatever was on the floor, chairs if they had those. People were sitting around. There was a lot of people. A lot of feet had come traveling in. And so Jesus, whom those closest to him accepted as their Lord, the Son of God, takes off his coat, puts on a towel, and bends down to start washing the dirty feet of the people who had come in, as common courtesy to the homeowner. And he came to Peter, and Peter was horrified. And I wonder, I think maybe I would react the same way, although now that I've grown up my whole life with this story, I might know. But without hearing this, I might be horrified. I'm trying to imagine if I went into my grandmother's home and my grandmother had come and knelt down and started to wash my feet. I would have been horrified. I would have been horrified. Or think of anyone else you love dearly, and you respect. How would it feel to let that person bend down with a towel and start to scrub your dirty feet? And Peter, as some of us would be in a similar situation, was aghast. He said, What are you doing? What are you doing? You're going to wash our feet? And Jesus answered him with, you don't understand this now, but you will. Yes, I'm going to wash your feet. And Peter's answer wasn't as simple as, don't wash my feet. Yes, I'm going to wash your feet, okay? It was, you will never wash my feet. You will never wash my feet. You are beloved. You are special. You are my leader. I would follow you anywhere. I am not worthy. You will not bend down on your knees and wash my feet. So for the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about breaking free. This is our series. From the beginning of Lent up through Easter, we're talking about breaking free. The first week, we heard about Moses and how Moses broke free from all the things that were the customs of the time in order to listen to a burning bush speaking to him. And last week we heard Tracy talking about breaking free from the ways that society limits us, whether it's because we're young, because we're old, because we're not the majority race or ethnicity, because we're not the majority or the powerful gender, because our hair is red, whatever reason there is why society might not think we're able to do certain things or hold certain positions or run for an office or hold a certain job. We need to break free sometimes from the limits that other people put on us. So Tracy talked about that last week, and this week what I wanted to talk about was breaking free from ourselves, from the limits that we put on ourselves. There are so many ways that we limit ourselves. I'm only going to talk about a few of them. One of the ways that we limit ourselves, I read about in a book by Dr. John Savage, a pastoral care book called Listening and Caring Skills. It's a fantastic book. If you haven't read it, find it somewhere. Or watch his videos, because he has that 1970s hair, and it's just fun to watch the old videos. And what he talked about was life commandments. And let me explain what that is. A life commandment is something that we hear at some time in our lives, probably when we're young, from someone who is probably older than us, an authority figure, a parent, an older family member, a teacher, a neighbor, someone in the community, a minister. And we believe what they say. And we listen to it and we internalize it. I'm going to give you a really quick example of life commandments. And as I'm talking, think about whether you've ever heard something that you just made kind of a rule in your life, without meaning to maybe. I have a cousin, Leanne, who's similar in age to me, and both of us grew up without siblings. Hers were much, much older. She was second generation. My siblings are much, much younger than me. But growing up as kids, we were alone, so as cousins, we sort of were together in the family. Now, I was always larger than petite and athletic and kind of bulky and chunky and like a tomboy. I got the label tomboy a lot when I was little. And Leanne was very small, very fragile, very petite, with big humongous eyes and 2-foot-long eyelashes and long curly hair. And what our grandmother told us was that I was not pretty, so I would be smart. I would be good at school. And Leanne was very pretty, but that wouldn't last, so she'd better find a man and get married while she was still young and pretty, because she wasn't going to be very smart. And boy, did we both believe those. Boy, did we both listen to those life commandments. She never even finished high school. She started having babies when she was 17, started having husbands when she was 18. And I'm still in school. So you listen to those things. And here's one other kind of life commandment. Your dad, imagine, died at the age of 55. He had a heart attack, dropped dead at work. So did your older brother. Your sister turned 55 3 years ago and was diagnosed with heart disease. You're 54. Yeah, I see this. It's amazing how often in families, age and cause of death just seems to pass along. Now, some of that's genetic, some of it's health and lifestyle. Some of it is because that's what men or women in my family do at that age. That's a life commandment. So think about, if there are life commandments that you've been given, think about that, because we got to break free from those. They will hold us back. They will hurt us. They'll make us do things that aren't good for ourselves. Another way that we limit ourselves is fear of failing. Maybe we failed once. And the first example I can think of for this is people who didn't finish high school, didn't go all the way through grade 12. That can so quickly become an obstacle to ever going back and trying again. My son didn't finish high school in the normal course of things. He took too many music classes, too many art classes, didn't show up for too many classes. He just didn't like high school at all. And when he got to grade 13, the principal said, "You're wasting my time, get out." And he spent about a year thinking, "I can't finish high school." And I said, "You will change that thinking." And we worked very, very hard on breaking that fear of failure. And then he went back, he found an adult education program a year later, and he went and finished. So it's fine. But fear of failing, especially if we've tried something once and failed, will hold us back. It's scary to try something a second time when you failed the first time. There's a karate school in Grimsby near my house. I might get this wrong. It says, I'm gonna get that wrong. Something about the beauty of failing over and over and over makes you find creative new ways to fail every time. It's funny and it's good, and I like that. I find creative new ways to mess things up. But I don't stop trying. Well, sometimes I do. Sometimes I get limited. And that's something, fear is something that we want to break free from. If we're ever going to fulfill the full potential that we have and have broadened horizons and fun, exciting lives and make contributions to our community, we have to break out of that. Another way that we limit ourselves, this is a big one, especially for us in here, I think, is guilt. And the first kind of guilt that came to my mind is working with people in the shelter system. You run into a lot of people with addictions problems and recovering from different addictions. And those people carry so very much guilt for their own addiction, for ways that they've messed up their relationships with family, for estrangement, for being alone, for just seeming to be irresponsible, while at the same time they're struggling with something. We pile guilt on. Another way that I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe we can all nod our heads and agree that we share this, is middle-class white North American guilt. We see horrific, heartbreaking, gut-wrenching conditions brought to us in documentaries and videos. And people bring back information as they go on trips to other parts of the world and see the conditions that people are living in and bring them back here, and oh, why? Why do we have everything that we have? Why do we have enough clean, running, drinkable water available to us that we use the toilet in it? Why do we have so much food that we're all, or a lot of us, are overweight? Why do we have so much air conditioning and heat and everything else electric and videos and computers that we sap all the electricity? Why are our cars burning up all the oil and polluting the world? So much guilt that we can just pile on. If you enjoy that sort of thing, turn on the internet and just keep reading about how horrible we are. It's depressing and it makes us feel guilty. And what's the response when we feel so overwhelmed by that? We turn it off and we don't do anything because it's just too much. It's too overwhelming, it's too painful to watch. Too painful to watch. So we pile on that guilt. And then there's self-doubt. And then there's anxiety. I get anxious about things. I can limit myself by feeling anxious. There's so very, very many ways that we pick things up that are painful and we allow them to limit what we reach for, what we try, what we dream about. So Jesus answered Peter. Peter said, You will never wash my feet. Jesus said, Unless you let me wash your feet, you have no part with me. And then Peter gave the answer that I would give. Once I really understood that. Once I really knew that Jesus was serious about washing my feet. It was, well, in that case, don't just do my feet. Wash my hands, wash my head. Check behind my ears, Lord. You know what? Just dump the whole thing. Let's just make it. Give me my rubber ducky and my back scrubber. Let's just do it. Let's just clean me up. So I call this Beauty Parlor Day because I remember, who here remembers when Spa Day was called Beauty Parlor Day? When you went, somebody's got to remember that. Is that just a Southern thing? No, somebody remembers that? When you went, you took a day, and when I was a kid, it was Fridays. My great-grandmother and my grandmother, it was Beauty Parlor Day. And it wasn't spa. They didn't have nice music, low, relaxing lighting. They didn't have manicures and pedicures. You went for a scrubbing, okay? You went to get your hair done, washed, because my great-grandparents didn't wash hair at home because their young children sometimes got pneumonia and died back around the 1910s, 20s. They went to the beauty parlor, got the hair washed, and then dried for like 3 hours so that you didn't die when you walked outside with wet hair. Okay? You go to the beauty parlor, you get your hair scrubbed, you get it wound up in these tight little things, and some woman puts blue stuff on it and then dries it for 3 hours so it doesn't move until the next Friday when you come back. It's an ordeal. You get your face scrubbed with hot, hot water, open up your pores, and then cold water. If you don't have a heart attack, your face is sealed for the next week. And eyebrows, let's talk about when hot wax was just yanking them out one at a time. Do my eyebrows, okay, one at a time. Beauty Parlor Day was an ordeal. It was painful, it took all day, and all the men in town knew they didn't schedule things on Friday because it was Beauty Parlor Day. It's like, nope, not Friday. And if it rained on Friday, the men went to ground because the humidity in the air would mess up everything that had been done. So why did these people put themselves through that? It's that feeling of being washed, being cleaned up, scrubbed up, getting made better, so that for 1 week you can come out and you can go, okay, all right, I'm clean. I'm good for a week. I look okay. I feel okay. I've done my time in the beauty parlor chair. I've done my penance. I'm good. Let's go. That's what Jesus was telling Peter. You know what? I know you don't feel great. I know you're kind of dirty. You've been walking around. You're dirty. Let me wash your feet. No, you can't wash my feet. Let me wash you. Let me make you clean so that you can feel good about yourself while you sit here and eat. Let me make you clean so that you can not track dirt around in our host's home. I don't mind doing that for you. And it's the same thing that God will do for us any moment, any time, any day. I don't know about my roots. I might still have to go get somebody to do my roots. But when we don't feel like we're good enough, when we feel like we're dirty, like we're guilty, like we got too much food and not enough time, not enough giving, and we feel guilty about a fight we had with our sister in 19-something, we can be scrubbed. We can get rid of that. We can turn to a Jesus who is willing to kneel down and wash our feet and say, me too, my feet, my hands, my head. And maybe with God's help we can break free from our own limitations. Okay, now we have a super, super special gift.